Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Sunday, March 26, 2023, and this is episode 250. Quite a milestone, I must say. My name is Carol. My Ravelry name is Knits and Pearls. I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, where it is trying very hard to be spring, but not quite succeeding. I hope you're all doing well and that you've had a good 2.5 weeks or so since we last spoke. My life has been a bit of a roller coaster ride lately, especially during this past week. So I thought I would mix things up a little bit this episode, and rather than jump into the knitting content right away, I thought I would start off with what Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel calls shenanigans. So here we go. So last episode I told you that my husband and I were flying to Las Vegas on Friday the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. This was a trip to celebrate his 30 years of employment. His company does this every couple of years and takes their 30-year employees on a long weekend to Las Vegas for fun and games. Was the first one since COVID, so there was actually a range of years there, like 30, 31, 32, 33, that sort of thing. There was a group of 24 of us in all, including the owner of the company and 3 of her family members who are also very involved in the company, and they acted as our hosts. So we had a fantastic flight down. It was so beautiful. We flew out of Vancouver. It was nice and sunny, and I was sitting in the middle seat next to one of Cameron's work colleagues who I've known quite a while, and she was on our 25-year employment trip. So she and I looked out the window for a good part of the trip, and we could see quite a few of the peaks from the Cascade Range, like Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, Mount Shasta. We're pretty sure we saw Mount St. Helens because half of the peak was blown away. And I'm throwing out those other names of mountains because I know they're in the Cascade Range, but there are others, so I'm not even sure which ones we actually saw, other than I'm pretty sure about Mount St. Helens. Anyway, it was really neat. They were all snow covered and just sticking up majestically, above the mountains around them. It was just gorgeous. So after we got settled into our hotel, we went for dinner in the restaurant in our hotel, and then we walked over to Planet Hollywood to see Keith Urban. So I used to be quite a country fan. I listened to it for quite a while, but I haven't for a long time. And I didn't really think I was going to know any of his music, but it turned out I did recognize probably 4 or 5 songs. And I didn't know he was such a fantastic guitar player, but wow, very impressive. Set a great tone for the evening and just was thoroughly enjoyable. Then after that, a group of us walked over to New York, to the piano bar there. If you've never been in one of these types of piano bars, there's a couple of pianos set up. They had 4 different piano players who switched out every hour or so, 2 of them at a time, and they would play requests, and people, tuck some money into their little written requests, to sweeten the deal. And just what fun. It was really, really crowded when we got there. And the crowds kind of thinned out as the evening wore on, but it was just so fun, just listening to all the music, and just the party atmosphere was really great to take in. So we left just a little bit before closing, and I think it was about 2:30 when we finally got back to our hotel room to go to bed. We stayed up late, but we took it pretty easy because we knew that the next day, one of the activities that was planned was going to be a helicopter tour to the Grand Canyon. And that is the activity that I was most excited about. And Saturday just happened to be my birthday. That was not something we broadcast. I wanted to make sure that this weekend was about the employees because that's why we were there after all. Just told a couple people quietly over the course of the day when it kind of came up, but otherwise kept it quiet. But oh, what a birthday! What a birthday! We met about noon and bussed over to a small airport where we were divided into groups, into several helicopters, and went on our way. So the helicopter held 7 people, and 6 people plus the pilot, and they seat you according to your weight. And just amazing thing is that Cameron and I got to sit in the front. So I was literally front and center for this helicopter ride. And so we took off. We flew out over Lake Las Vegas, over the Hoover Dam, Lake Mead. We saw where the Colorado River flowed into Lake Mead, and then we flew into the canyon itself. And I'm gonna let you enjoy that experience for yourself. You got a sense of what we experienced. So we landed in this little area set up with a little picnic shelter. And so we had a little while to walk around and take pictures. And then they gave us a little picnic basket full of some snacks and poured us some champagne. And so here I was sitting in the middle of the Grand Canyon sipping champagne on my birthday. Our helicopter had brought the food, and so that meant it had less fuel. So on our way back to Las Vegas, we had to stop briefly at a small airport and fuel up, and then we were on our way. Once again, we flew over Lake Mead. We saw the place called the Narrows where they had originally considered putting the dam, but I guess it was just not stable enough to support the weight of the dam. And then before heading back to the airport, we flew over Las Vegas itself and saw the strip from the air. And our pilot mentioned, I think he said he started back in November with this company, and he said that was the first time he had seen the fountains on at the Mirage. And if you've been to Vegas, you know that's quite a cool thing. They've got the fountains go off and they play music or there's music in the background. It's quite a sight. So I'm gonna let you experience landing back at the airport. So enjoy the rest of your flight. Beginning of an incredible day. Later on, we went for dinner at a restaurant called Milos, which is in the Venetian. Had this just amazing Greek dinner. And then we walked across the street to the Mirage, where we saw Cirque du Soleil. And it was the Beatles Love show. So it was all Beatles music, you know, can't go wrong with the Beatles, and just in an incredible performance by all of the entertainers. They are so talented and so captivating. And partway through the show, I realized that I was front and center for this too. There were some seats in front of us that were, I guess you would say, like the orchestra pit idea. They were below the stage, and then there was like a railing and a walkway that separated us from them, and then we were in the front row, and I was literally seated like center stage. Could not have planned it better. It was amazing. And then after the show was done, some of us stayed behind in the Mirage. They had a band playing, and we watched them for a while before heading back to the hotel. And once again, it was about 2:30 in the morning by the time we got to bed. And then everything kind of went south from there. A little bit later that morning, my husband had a medical emergency which required a trip to the hospital. And I won't go into details just out of respect for his privacy. But we had, it was a really tough, tough Sunday. They eventually did surgery on him late Sunday afternoon. And he ended up staying a couple of nights in the hospital because of his numbers, and the doctor didn't want to release him till he knew his numbers were all stable. He wanted to make sure he didn't have an infection. And so that did necessitate staying an extra day. And Tuesday morning, we were a little bit on pins and needles, waiting to see if he was going to be released in time for us to fly home that day. And he was in the hospital. I was back at the hotel. We're messaging back and forth, and it was just looking like, boy, if he doesn't get released by now, we're going to have to stay another night, rebook the flight for the next day. And then I went online to see what other options there were for flights and learned that our flight had been delayed. And it just so happened that that gave us enough of a window to get to the airport in time, because he did end up getting released not long after that. That was an ordeal in itself. I had to arrange for a wheelchair on that end and on the Vancouver end, because he just couldn't walk that far through security and customs and everything. But we managed, and thanks to some incredible staff, and got home, I think about 8 o'clock on Tuesday evening. And he's getting better every day, thankfully. We're just awaiting an appointment with a specialist, hoping that'll happen next week. But yeah, just not at all what we'd envisioned for this trip, and certainly not when we'd gone to bed in the wee hours of Sunday morning after such an incredible Saturday. I said I was living on a bit of a roller coaster. So you've heard the up, you've heard the down. It was quite a busy week here because of his condition. I've had to sort of take on a lot of the preparation for getting ready for our renovations, which start tomorrow. We had already planned to have our kids come over on Saturday to help us take out cabinets and countertop. On Friday, we had someone from a new and used place come and take out some of our pantry cupboards. And oh, what a mess. There was drywall dust from one end of our top floor to the other. So when we set up for Saturday's work, we draped sheets and drop cloths in the doorways between the living room and hallway and the kitchen, and that really did help keep the dust down. Not to mention that because the remaining cupboards were not floor to ceiling, they were top and bottom, there didn't have to be as much destruction of things at the header above it as was necessary for the guy taking out the other cabinets. But with everyone working together, it didn't take that long. It was just such a good feeling, just hearing everyone laughing and joking and watching them work together. And we wouldn't let Cameron do too much. I got him a chair. He was able to supervise. And I felt so bad because he watches all these reno shows. And what's the one with Joanna and Chip Gaines? It's escaping me the name of it, but they have demo day. Cameron's been looking forward to demo day for so long, and here he couldn't even actually take part in it other than telling other people what to do. But by the time they left, our kitchen was stripped down to just the four walls. And it's very exciting because, as I say, renovations start tomorrow. Our construction company comes in and starts work. So it is very exciting. We have set up a temporary kitchen down in our laundry area. I've got a little microwave cart that has some things set up on it and stored in little drawers and cupboards. I emptied the cupboard above the utility sink, so we have dishes and things set up in there. I've got boxes and stuff of food in one of our spare bedrooms. That spare bedroom is just, pardon me, crammed full of kitchen things. But I've got what I need accessible, and everything else, we'll unpack when the time comes. And it'll be really fun, putting it all away again. Well, it won't be fun doing it. It'll be fun when it's done. So, yes. So that's been our life this last week. I'm happy to say that, we've now climbed up the roller coaster again, and I'm just hoping we don't come crashing down, and instead that it's just a gradual return to the end. I did manage to do some knitting before I went away, and then I've only been working on one project while I was gone and since I've returned. So why don't I share those with you now? I'm just looking at my notes. Before I do that, I should remind you that there are a couple of make-alongs taking place in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group. One is Another Year of Stash, which is a year-long make-along. There's just a year-long chatter thread, and prizes are awarded monthly. And then there is the Yarn of the Month Club, which is a monthly make-along, which spans 2 months, a 2-month period between when you get to cast on and when you get to finish. And I also have been awarding a prize for that make-along each month. So if you're interested in taking part in either of those, go on over to the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group. Read the first post in each of the pertinent threads and join on in. Love to see you there. So my March Yarn of the Month project, I have finished my March Yarn of the Month Club project. How about I put words in the right order? And this is Secret Skein by Stephanie Lotfin of Tellybean Knits. It is knit from Riverstone Yarns. It's a merino cashmere nylon blend fingering weight yarn in the Contemplation colorway. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Riverstone Yarns is dying anymore. They are, or were, yarn dyer out of the Kootenays in British Columbia. But this yarn was given to me as a birthday gift from my daughter a few years ago, and I thought it would be fitting to knit it in my birthday month. And so it doesn't look like too much when you hold it up, but this is, it looks like from the back. So there's these eyelet rows. Let's see if I can get the lighting right. There you go. You can see that, I think. The rows of eyelet stripes, and then it transitions to these sections of long dropped stitches and garter stripes. This was, well, the pattern was designed to use with those fun skeins of sock yarn that we all, or most of us anyway, have in our stash, and you're not quite sure what to do with them. Works equally well with variegated and solid or tonal yarns, and it was a great pattern to knit up, and I really love how this turned out. I plan to knit this pattern again for sure. So I'm going to stand up a little bit so you can see. Oh, and that's good. The lights shifted a little bit just with that motion, so you can get a really good look at all the stitch definition and such, even though it kind of is blowing out the color a little bit. But isn't that beautiful? I love it. I love how it just sits so nicely around your neck. Would fill in this V of a coat really well. Yeah, I am completely happy with this pattern. Would highly recommend it. All right, I just got cut off by a message saying my iPhone storage was full, so I have deleted some things, and here I am back again, but I'm not sure exactly where it cut off. So I'm just going to stand up where I was. I think you might have seen this already, but there you go. You can see the cowl in that light. It's a little bit blown out, but it actually shows it off really well. And I was just saying what a fantastic pattern it is. It's easy to follow. It works equally well with variegated and tonal yarns according to the pattern. I like the way it lays. I think it would be great inside the V of a coat, which is how I wear this style of, well, not shawl, but it kind of looks like you're wearing a shawl bandana style. Yeah, highly recommend this pattern. I'll definitely be making it again. So I didn't bring my blanket of cheer in to talk about this week. I think I've put borders on several blocks since we last spoke, but I haven't knit any new blocks or anything, so I just left that in the other room. I did take it with me down to Las Vegas, but I didn't work on it at all. What I did take and did work on are my Lady Cardinal socks. These are socks I'm knitting from some yarn from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. It is part of the Backyard Birdwatchers Club 2nd edition, and it came in November 2022, and I just dropped one of the skeins of it. But luckily I have another one sitting right beside me. So you can see this is the color of the main skein. This is the Mountain Tweed BFL base, and then here's the information. So it's called Lady Cardinal, and then it also came with 2 mini skeins. This is Beaky Orange, and this is Evergreen. So I decided that I would just put a little pop of orange at the top of the cuff, and that I would do a green heel with the evergreen. And then I am ready for the toe on both socks, and I will show you the second sock on a sock blocker so you can see it from the side. So I did work on these a little bit on the flight down to Vegas. On the Sunday, I could not knit a stitch, even though I made sure to pop it in my bag for the emergency room. And by the next day, Cameron was much better, and so I sat in his room all day and knit. And it was funny because the last time that I spoke to his attending physician, he said, "I see you've been knitting there," and he told me that his mom was a knitter and had a yarn full of room, or a room full of yarn. And I said we'd get along great because so do I. So that was kind of a neat thing. And then I've been working on these in the evenings. I have to say my days have been very full with prepping things for the renovations and helping take care of Cameron and running errands and all of that, and by the time evening rolls around, all I can do is stockinette stitch. So that's what I've been doing. We've been watching curling. It's the Women's World's Curling Championships. The finals were today, or earlier today. We've recorded them, are going to watch later. Canada is going for the bronze medal, and Switzerland and Norway are playing off for gold. Our own curling season ended rather, what's the word you use? Uneventfully. We were all dressed up. We knew we would leave. We knew we were going to miss our last game as a team because we were going to be flying back from Vegas that day. But we were all dressed and ready to go for our second to last game, what would be our last game. And Cameron was actually just got to the car, and I was doing something before I left the house, and I heard him come back in, and he said the other team just canceled. So that was the end to our curling. Very anticlimactic. That's the word I was going for. Anyway, apparently I digress. Here's my sock. I like the way it looks with the green heel and the little pop of orange. And as I said, all I need to do is put the toes on, and then that pair of socks will be finished. So this was the skein number 2 from my own personal sock yarn club this year. And so I thought I would go ahead and open bag number 3 with you, because that's always fun. At least it is for me. I hope it is for you. So here it is. My husband, I laid out 12 skeins. He randomly put them in bags for me and marked them. So here's bag number 3. Try not to crinkle too much because I know it's noisy. Oh, so it is one from the Sweet Fiber Yarns Autumn Fall 2022 Sock Club. This is Super Sweet Sock in the Autumn Day colorway. So there's the label for Sweet Fiber. She is somewhat local to me. And then if you're interested, there's all the yarn information. So it's an 80-20 superwash merino nylon mix. I think these may just end up as plain stockinette socks, but maybe I'll look for a simple pattern. I don't want to do anything. I suspect that these will micro stripe, and I don't want anything that's going to obscure the pattern. You know, I don't want a pattern that will be too obscured by the micro striping. But that's beautiful. So I'm glad I did this because it's sort of forcing me to knit some of my club yarns that otherwise I might just, or had actually, just set aside and think, oh, I'll knit that one day and it'll be lovely. But this is making me get around to it sooner than later. I have one more work in progress. This is the Simply Fun Mystery Knit Along. It's a cowl by Lisa K. Ross of Paper Daisy Creations. Spoiler alert, I'm going to show you clue number 3. Clue number 4 has landed. I haven't had a chance to even look at it, but I will show you how clue number 3 looks. I should say, works. How it looks. I finished this before I went off to Las Vegas. So just as a reminder, I am using the Knit Pick Stroll Tonal Mini Pack in the Moody Blues colorway. So there are 5 shades of like purple and blue. And so I will put in a timestamp, like a spoiler alert and chapter or whatever it's called, timestamp, so you can skip ahead if you don't want to see it. Fair warning, I'm showing it to you now. So it's kind of hard to show, honestly, because we first knit this big rectangle and now we are attaching one end of the rectangle to the other, but not in a straight line. We're doing it kind of diagonally. And so I don't even know how to show this to you. This was clue number 1. This is clue number 2. And now clue number 3, you can see how these stripes here are being joined to this edge here in kind of a V shape. Doesn't look like much. I suspect it will look a lot better the next time around, because right now it just kind of looks like a thing. But I have enjoyed working on this very much, and I am looking forward to picking it back up maybe tonight, I'm hoping, because I really want to finish it. So there you have it. I wish it was more interesting to show you, but that's, I think it goes this way actually. There, that's probably a better look. Got it. Forgive me. There, you can see how it's attaching there. So there we go. All right. Hang on. Now it's all twisted, doesn't want to go into my bag. I think I've shown this to you before, that I'm using this beautiful teacup themed bag. No memory of who it's by. I think I got it as part of a what do you call it? Like a kit once upon a time. And I have been keeping my Lady Cardinal socks in my cardinal bag. Oh, and last episode I said I was maybe considering giving them to my sister who lives back in Toronto, where they actually have cardinals. Her birthday's coming up at the end of April, and I thought I might make them for her. But I don't have to. I told you I was torn between wanting to keep them and send them to her. But one of my sisters came across this beautiful metal wreath for a door. Happens to have cardinals on it, and we're all going to go in on that for her birthday present. So then I didn't have to, choose anymore. I'm going to keep those cardinal socks for myself, especially now there's some really good memories and some not so good memories all knit into them. And I know I'm going to keep them. Last episode, I also talked about pulling out some of my short-sleeved sort of transitional seasoned Lord, ouch. Oh gosh. I should cut that out, but I'm not going to. That's me. This is real me. Anyway, I talked about some sweaters that I have that you could wear in the transitional seasons between winter and spring, and like fall to winter, I guess the transitional seasons, spring and fall. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Anyway, so I had pulled out several, and I was debating about whether or not to frog them or give them away or what, because for one reason or another, I wasn't happy with them. So since that time, I have given 3 of those sweaters more consideration, and I've just put them on and filmed little clips about each one so you can see what my decision was and why. So just enjoy that for the next little while, and I'll meet you here on the other side. All right, let's start with a couple of success stories. The first is what I'm wearing. This is Green Gables by Rachel Bishop. I knit it back in 2017 from All Hemp for Knitting, All Hemp 6 in the aubergine colorway. And I don't think I've worn it since. Definitely not outside the house, but maybe to record an episode or 2. And when I looked at it really critically, I realized it wasn't the fit that was preventing me from wearing it. I mean, look, it fits perfectly, just like a t-shirt should. It has just the right amount of ease, it's just the right length. You know, there's, on its surface, it was like the perfect sweater. What I realized is I wasn't wearing it with the correct undergarments. And once I figured that out, it made all the difference. So because the fabric is quite a closely knit fabric, um, I thought I could get away with just wearing it with a sweater bra. So I attempted to wear it with a beige bra. The problem was is that the fabric has a sheen to it, and so when I was wearing it, there was kind of shining through right in this area. It was like headlights, headlights, and I just felt really self-conscious in it. So then I tried it with a different bra that was closer in color to the yarn, but it's a bra I don't really like wearing. It's got a bit of a funny fit, and again, it just seemed to highlight the girls, and not in a good way. Plus, it had a darker strap, and it was interrupting the flow of this lace here. So then I pulled this camisole out of my closet that I don't even know why I had it. I don't know what I used to wear it with. This is the color of it, and even though it is not the same color as the sweater, it's got the same cool tones. And when I put this on over my sweater bra, it just evened out all the coloring. There's no sheen that comes through here. So the girls are there, but they're not like in your face. And it's just made all the difference. Plus, I think the camisole just makes the sweater lie really nicely because it's not kind of getting hitched up on my jeans or anything. The camisole gives it that smooth surface to flow over. So I am definitely not frogging this. I feel confident that I can wear this outside the home. It won't look homemade. It'll just look nice, and that's definitely a success story. So on to the next success. All right, sweater number 2 is Knit Me Baby One More Time by Mary Annarella of Lyrical Knits. I finished this sweater about a year ago. I used 3 different colors of All Points North Sweet Sock. This is Olive View, this is Raindrops, and this is Anchors Away. And when I pulled it out this spring and tried it on, it was too big. And I was really disappointed because I love this sweater. I have lost weight over the course of the last year, and I thought, well, maybe it's just no longer the right size. But before giving up on it, I decided to wash it, block it, and then put it in the dryer for a short time when it was still slightly damp, just to see if that would suck everything up back into place. Superwash wools do have a tendency to stretch out over time with wear, and it turns out that's all it needed. You can see once again it's fitting as it should, and so I'm happy to report that I have another success story. But stay tuned, there is a project heading for the Frog Pond, and I'll share that with you next. All right, the third and final sweater that I'm going to talk about today is the Lounging Top by Joji Locatelli. I knit it back in 2020 from fleece artist Merino Slim in the coral colorway. And even though I tried to give it a second chance, unfortunately this one's headed for the Frog Pond, and I'll tell you why. So initially I was really happy with how this sweater turned out. But again, I found it was one that I just wasn't reaching for. And when I pulled it out again this spring and looked at it critically, I realized that it was because it was just about an inch too short in the body. Now, I think what happened was that initially it was a little bit longer because I had washed and blocked it, and it's superwash wool. So I think when it was all said and done, it actually did fit the way I wanted it to. But over time, it's kind of shrunk up a little bit. That's probably because often when I go to wear a sweater, I'll throw it in the dryer briefly just to get out all the fold lines, and I think the yarn just sprung back to where it originally was. So I thought, well, you know what, it's a cute top, it's worth taking it back taking back the garter band and the short rows, you can see that it is a sloped hemline. It's worth taking those back, adding an inch of length, and then working the short rows and garter band again. And as you can see, it actually fits really, really nicely now. Initially, before I did that, just with this sitting up about an inch higher, it didn't look so bad from the front, and it didn't look too bad from the back. But what it did was it kind of highlighted my tummy here from the side, and that's an area I prefer to camouflage. I'm sure a lot of you women can relate. So even though it's actually looks quite good now, unfortunately you can see where I added in the new yarn. Now, first of all, I just ripped it back and then started reknitting with the yarn that I had pulled back. But it was, as you can imagine, very, very curly. And I could definitely see where I was reknitting. And I was afraid that it was not going to block out. So I decided to take it back and start again with new yarn because I did have plenty left over. And that definitely was better. I alternated skeins like I had done for the sweater initially. And even though I think there's a fairly seamless color change, or, you know, I don't think you can see where the two different yarns were used, you can see some elongated stitches where I joined in the new yarn. And that's just from the fact that the sweater was initially knit and then sat on the needles for a long time. Those stitches tightened up, and when I added in the new yarn, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see or not. I'll try and bring it up. There are just areas where the stitches just look really uneven, really unattractive. Plus, to be honest with you, the whole time that I was reknitting this sweater, or this portion of the sweater, I kept picturing this yarn in a tea-styled sweater, maybe a circular yoke with lace up here. And so I think I never entirely bought into the whole idea of reworking this and wearing it. And so I'm not too unhappy about it. I'm going to frog this completely. I'm going to wash my yarn and reskein it, or I'll reskein it, then I'll wash it. And then this yarn is going to become another summery tee, but most likely with some lace detail up here and a circular yoke. And I think I'm just going to be a whole lot happier with that in the end. So even though I hate frogging things, everybody hates frogging things, I look forward to giving this yarn new life and turning it into something that I'll be happy wearing. So that's my tale of 3 sweaters. Thankfully only 1 tale of woe and 2 success stories. I don't think I showed it to you in those clips, but I was pretty sure I was going to be frogging the lounging top even before I blocked it, so I made sure I didn't weave in the ends or cut them off or anything. So it should be pretty easy for me to start frogging this. I can't wait to make something else out of this beautiful yarn though, because I really do love that color. It's so vibrant. As for what's up and coming, well, I'm going to make another spring, fall, summer type sweater. I bought the yarn for this, I think it was a few months ago. It was definitely back in 2022. And Sweet Georgia Yarns had a sale on their fingering weight yarn, and I bought 2 skeins of this Flaxen Silk Fine, and it's the Cauldron colorway. So it's basically dark gray or black. And this yarn is, oh boy, I can hardly read this. I'm actually getting new glasses very soon. I had an eye appointment before I left, and I'm wearing my contacts now. I always have a harder time reading with them, but looking forward to new glasses because I've been noticing a change in my vision, both distance and close up. Anyway, this is 65% silk, 35% linen, 480 yards. So it's a fingering weight. And I am going to be making the Cullum Tea by Isabel Kramer. Oh yeah, this is my printing of it. I had to replace the ink cartridge after that. I didn't bother reprinting the picture, but I'll pop a picture in here of what it looks like. Before I left, I did swatch for it. So I have all my needles worked out and everything. They're sitting here in this bag that I had made for myself. And I'm going to cast that on hopefully this week. So I got a couple of new projects that I should be starting this week. And since I finished my March project for the Yarn of the Month Club, I have been thinking about April's project. And I knew when I put this yarn away that this was going to be April's yarn because the colorway is called April Showers. So how fitting. This is a yarn by, it's Caterpillar Green Yarns. They go by a different name now. I'll put it on the screen because I just can't remember. And this is an MCN fingering. So 70% superwash merino wool, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon. There's 548 meters, 599 yards in here. And the way this yarn is dyed is that as you knit your stripes, like say if you're doing a triangular or a circular, or I mean a triangular or a semicircle shawl, normally if you have a striped yarn, your stripes will get narrower as you work your way through the project because the number of stitches increases. This yarn is dyed so that your stripes will stay kind of similar widths so that there are longer stretches of color as you go through the skein. Now I had bought, not this exact skein, but the same colorway, same yarn, same colorway at Knit City one year. And that was a year that a viewer, I met up with her at Knit City. And then later on, she sent me some yarns from this dyer. And she sent me this skein. And I liked, because it was a different colorway, I liked the colors in this one better than the one that I had bought. It was just a little bit different. And so I had given that skein away. So, Susan, I am going to make something with this one now and looking forward to it, and we'll think about you while I am knitting it. So thank you again for that lovely gift. All right, so that's it for up and coming things as far as knitting goes. And as I mentioned, as far as life goes, renovations start tomorrow. So excited. Yeah, just so excited. Sorry, blanking here. Next week, it's the second week of spring break for our grandchildren, and I'm going to be looking after our granddaughter for 4 of those 5 days. So I've got some crafts that I picked up at the dollar store that we'll work on. I'm hoping to work on my paint by number that I started, I think, a couple of years ago. Maybe while she's working on hers, I'll be working on mine. We're kind of basically for the next while, our living quarters is going to be mainly downstairs in our family room. Because our living room's just off the kitchen, it's going to be noisy and dusty. Although we do have it set up, we've got our kitchen table set up there, so we can eat up there if we want to. And also, we're able to get at our usual seats where we like to sit in there. Maybe we'll spend more evenings in there and spend spend days downstairs out of the way. In any case, I needed some things to help entertain her because she's going to have a much more confined space to kind of do things in. And the room with all the toys where she's usually, you know, has free reign, there's stuff in there too. So anyway, we'll have fun. We'll manage for sure. So I know because when she's here, recording's not going to be happening this coming week. I'm not sure when it is. I might end up having to do it on some of the weekends because there's just no way, even once I'm on my own during the day with the noise and the activity, I'm not going to be able to record. So my recording schedule is up in the air for the next month or so. Just if you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, be sure to hit subscribe and the notifications, and at least you'll know when one pops up. I will do my best to get another one out soon because I enjoy doing this and I like to be able to keep up to date. I always feel a little bit overwhelmed when more than a couple of weeks has gone by because things just seem to pile up. And that just leaves me with something good. And despite how terrible an experience we had with Cameron's medical emergency, I have to say that the love and support we have received from both strangers and loved ones has just been incredible. His company kept in touch and took care of changing our hotel and flight reservations, and have been, you know, checking back in on him. The medical staff, we're in both the hospital we went to first and the hospital he ended up in second, were incredible, not just to him but to me, particularly the two nurses in pre-op. They just looked out for me so well, got me settled in his room while I was waiting for him to get out of surgery, arranged for me to have some food, and the nurse up there she came in, I was, we had a little couch set up in his room, so I had laid down for a little rest while he was in surgery, and she came and brought me a pillow and some warm blankets, and the hotel staff was great. The people we had in the airport with the wheelchairs, the flight attendant coming home was super. She knew, we literally went from the hospital, got an Uber right to the airport, and and got a bit chided for when we got to the ticket counter being told we should have checked in earlier than that, and we're like, we came as fast as we could, and then their whole demeanor changed. They just sped us through. It was just amazing. And then since we've been home, I was supposed to have looked after our granddaughter last week for several days. One sister looked after her on Thursday, another on Friday, so that I was able to get things done that were needed, both in terms of looking after Cameron and in terms of getting ready for our renovations, and just was back and forth with our various families the whole time, and just everyone was just amazing. So if anything good has come out of all this, it's just knowing that there is definitely the kindness of strangers, and just feeling the love from family and friends. It's been just amazing. And on that very good note, I am going to say goodbye to you until I'm not sure when, but take care until whenever that is. Keep on knitting and crocheting and crafting and doing all the things you love to do. And I hope to talk to you again very, very soon. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.